In the Generation 3 Pokemon games, one of the most successful new additions were doubles battles. These were completely new at the time, and these doubles battles ended up becoming a staple of the series. And today, the official competitive format for Pokemon is played in a doubles rule set. In doubles battles, there are 2 Pokemon on each side of the field, and the complexity is increased. There are more mechanics to use in doubles, like Follow Me, which forces the enemy to target you, shielding your ally from an incoming attack. Or spread moves that hit both opponents instead of just hitting one opponent. This new doubles battle system completely changed how the game was played, and doubles battles would persist in every single title after Gen 3, of course. So if the expansion of singles battles to doubles battles was a success, there's a logical next step, isn't there? And in the Gen 5 games, they attempted to make this leap into the world of triple battles. In this all-new battle system, there are 3 Pokemon on each side of the field, and triple battles actually introduced a significant amount of complexity. Perhaps too much, because they didn't end up being that popular. You see, in triples battles, not every Pokemon can target every other Pokemon. The Pokemon on the left and right sides can only target the enemy Pokemon in front of them and the enemy Pokemon in the center. So the leftmost Pokemon on your side is not able to target the rightmost Pokemon on their side. Now there's an element of positioning in Pokemon battles, which has never been the case before. Only the Pokemon in the center of the triples field is able to target everything else, but on the flip side, it can be targeted by everything else, making it more vulnerable. The emphasis on positioning and complexity in decision making is enhanced further by the fact that the Pokemon on the sides can choose to switch with the center Pokemon at any time. This action will consume your turn, so you can't move to the center of the field while also attacking. But this repositioning move you can do is very useful, allowing you to potentially dodge incoming hits or put a powerful Pokemon in the center to now be able to hit all of the opponent's Pokemon when it previously couldn't. You might expect a move like Earthquake to be able to hit the entire triples field, all 6 of the Pokemon, but it doesn't quite work like that. Instead, Earthquake only hits adjacent Pokemon. That means that if you're on the left and you use Earthquake, you're going to hit the Pokemon in front of you, the Pokemon at the enemy's center, and the Pokemon in your own center. Even the spread moves, popular in doubles for hitting the whole field, are now limited in how much they can hit, which is very interesting, isn't it? While singles and doubles have had strong competitive communities for a long time, triples was never really embraced by the competitive community. The debut gen of triples was Gen 5, and there isn't really much evidence that people were that interested in triples back when it came out, at least in a competitive sense. The Smogon competitive Pokemon Hub has barely any information about Gen 5 triples being played back in the day, and there isn't really a rule set or a ban list or a viability rankings to refer to for this. It's kind of a dead format, unfortunately. You can challenge people to Gen 5 triples battles, but it's mostly just your own rules you'd be going off because there is no central agreed upon rule set for the format, and the metagame is very underdeveloped. In the official games, triples existed in Gen 5 and Gen 6, and that's it. Gen 6 actually did have an official triples competitive format of sorts in the form of battle spot triples. You could queue up and match against other players in this official battle spot triples format in the actual Gen 6 games. And unlike in the other battle spot formats, you get to use a full team of 6 in this one. In battle spot singles, you usually pick 3 Pokemon that are used in the battle from a team of 6. And in doubles, you pick 4 Pokemon to use in a battle from a team of 6. But in battle spot triples, you just get to use all 6. It's interesting that the developers did acknowledge triples and give it its own official competitive format, even though this was not a very popular format at the time and was quite niche. Battle spot triples had a pretty interesting metagame, actually. I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that Landorus Therian was very good in this format. If you put Landorus Therian in the center of the field, it will intimidate all 3 enemy Pokemon, which is obviously incredibly strong. And Landorus Therian's Earthquake will also hit all 3 enemy Pokemon if it's in the center. Mega Kangaskhan is also an elite Pokemon here. A lot of stuff from doubles does just carry over to triples. Mega Kangaskhan is great in doubles too, and it's good in triples for many of the same reasons, for its powerful double tap fake out, which is a great form of disruption. and all the other benefits of the parental bond ability like Power Up Punch, Sucker Punch, Return, all being able to hit twice. Fake Out is very valuable here because you can fake out the central Pokemon and prevent them from clicking huge spread moves that hit all 3 of your Pokemon. Sylveon is also an incredible Pokemon in Battle Spot triples. Sylveon is sometimes used in doubles for its powerful Fairy-type spread moves. Sylveon is fairly popular in doubles already for its powerful Fairy-type spread moves, like Hyper Voice, which becomes Fairy-type from the ability Pixelate. In triples, this is obviously enhanced because spread moves can hit all 3 enemies if you're in the center. And Sylveon also has the useful support move Helping Hand to enhance an ally's damage. The move Wide Guard is incredibly important in triples because it actually does apply to your entire team no matter where you are. Even if you're on the right and you use Wide Guard, it will protect the leftmost Pokemon from spread moves as well. So Wide Guard is a very important reprieve against the potential of powerful spread moves hitting your whole team in this format. Hitmontop is a very popular support, not only because it has the crucial Wide Guard, which is imperative in triples, it also has the useful Intimidate and Fake Out. This makes Hitmontop one of the most powerful support Pokemon in triples. Something that I've neglected to mention so far is that although most spread moves and single target moves can only target adjacent Pokemon in triples, as established, there are exceptions. One of the most noteworthy exceptions are that flying type moves. Any flying type attack is able to target any Pokemon on the field. So your rightmost Pokemon can use a flying type attack to target the leftmost Pokemon for whatever reason. Specifically, flying type attacks can target everybody on the field. There are also some other moves that can bypass the adjacency restrictions. Aura Sphere is an attack that can hit anybody on the field. Dark Pulse, Dragon Pulse, and Water Pulse. All of the pulse-based attacks are able to hit anybody in the field. I guess pulsing is a wide-reaching phenomenon that can stretch all the way over to the opposite Pokemon in a triples battle. What a concept. So that's important to consider. Any Pokemon with a flying weakness is not safe from other Pokemon on the field, even if they are far away, positioning-wise. Being flying weak seems like it's a bad thing in this format, doesn't it? Because no matter where you are, you're in danger. One of the chief abusers of this in Battle Spot triples back in Gen 6 was Talonflame. Talonflame, of course, at this time had unnerfed Gale Wings, which just grants priority to all flying type attacks. So Talonflame can hit anybody on the field in a triples battle with priority, and it can hit hard thanks to its stab damage on flying type attacks too. And you know who else is really good here? A Pokemon that sucks in most other tiers, but is really having its day in triples? It's Mega Blastoise. What do you know? It's the second time this has happened recently. Not too long ago, I talked about how good Mega Blastoise is in Pokemon Let's Go, which is uncharacteristic of it. And in triples, this Pokemon is thriving because it has that ability, Mega Launcher, which boosts the power of all pulse-based attacks. And usually, pulse-based attacks are just normal attacks, but here in triples, they can target the whole field. So Mega Blastoise has these hard-hitting pulse attacks like Dark Pulse, Water Pulse, etc. It also has Aura Sphere, and these moves can hit everybody. Mega Blastoise also happens to get Fake Out, which is another good doubles and triples move, isn't it? Now that I know all this about triples, it almost seems like Mega Blastoise was made for triples battles, wasn't it? That's an unfortunate thing to be made for, nobody played them, but still, Mega Blastoise is excellent here. I'm curious to try Battle Spot triples now, honestly, it sounds pretty cool, so if it ever comes up on the Spotlight ladder on Showdown, I'll definitely give it a go. Battle Spot triples is the most noteworthy official triples format, but there is also a noteworthy unofficial triples format. Even though triples battles were removed from the game post-Gen 6, and the current gen of Gen 9 doesn't have them, on the Pokemon Showdown Battle Simulator, there is a fan-made Gen 9 triples format that you can play. Unfortunately, this format is not available on the ladder right now. Even now, triples is not that popular, but perhaps this will show up on one of the rotational ladders that comes and goes in a future month, and you can challenge people to Gen 9 triples. Now there is a whole new pool of Pokemon that are able to thrive in the world of triples that never could before. As many of you know, in Gen 7, Torkoal and Pelipper both received powerful weather-setting abilities. Torkoal received Drought to set sun on the field, and Pelipper received Drizzle to set rain on the field. These two would have been perfect for triples, but unfortunately, they got these buffs one generation too late. But now in the world of Gen 9 triples, these Pokemon can be abused for an incredible advantage. First of all, weather and other field effects are not beholden to the adjacency rule. They do affect the whole field, so a sun setter or a rain setter is fantastic, allowing your entire team to benefit from the weather no matter where they are positionally. Something that makes Pelipper in particular so fantastic in triples is that it has a Hurricane, and as we know, flying type attacks are able to hit the entire field no matter where you are. This means that not only are you setting Rain to make Hurricane perfectly accurate, but your Hurricane is able to hit all three of the enemy's Pokemon no matter what your position is. If Pelipper wasn't good enough already, this Pokemon also learns the move Wide Guard, which is a crucial utility option that obviously shields your entire team from spread moves. As a result of Pelipper being so outstanding here, Rain teams are some of the best triple strategies. And another unexpectedly great Pokemon on Rain teams in Gen 9 triples is Araquanid, because Araquanid is a powerful water-type threat, with its ability Water Bubble, which significantly boosts the damage of water-type attacks. But on top of that, Araquanid also gets Wide Guard, making it a very useful additional form of security against those spread moves. Torkoal can also use a Trick Room Eruption strategy, be placed in the center and hit everybody on the enemy field with a powerful spread eruption. The Ruinous Quartet are also incredible in triples because they all have abilities that affect the entire field. Every single Pokemon on the field, including your own. The standout Pokemon amongst these is definitely Chi-Yu, whose Beads of Ruin ability decreases the special defense of all enemy Pokemon. Chi-Yu also has Heat Wave, which is a spread move, meaning it can be used in the center to hit all three enemies, and Chi-Yu benefits greatly from Torkoal, who we established is a great triples Pokemon. Chi-Yu also happens to have Dark Pulse, which is a hard-hitting attack that can bypass the adjacency, because it's a pulse move. Chi-Yu can hit anyone from any point on the field with Dark Pulse. I have never seen the Pokemon Stonjourner do anything in a competitive context, but in triples, this is actually a pretty good Pokemon, because its ability Power Spot is better in triples than it is anywhere else. Power Spot boosts the power of your allies' moves by 1.3x, which in triples applies to both of your teammates. And Stonjourner also gets the crucial Wide Guard. And another interesting thing Stonjourner can do is use Imprison to prevent the enemy from being able to use Wide Guard. Imprison is another move that is actually pretty significantly buffed in triples, because when you use Imprison, all of the enemy Pokemon cannot use any move that you also know. So Stonjourner here can prevent all of the enemy's Pokemon from using Wide Guard, making them totally vulnerable to spread moves. While it's also boosting the power of your spread moves with the Power Spot ability and protecting you from enemy spread moves with Wide Guard of its own. I can't believe it, but Stonjourner is pretty excellent in triples here. I'm glad to see that Stonjourner has somewhere it can exist in peace. To this day, the triples meta is very unexplored, and with this metagame not having a ladder and being still quite niche, this remains the case. But from what I've seen, the metagame largely centers around the abuse of spread moves and the prevention of the enemy using spread moves with various disruptive effects. It has a lot in common with doubles, with many of the same powerful utility concepts being prevalent here, but the importance of spread moves is significantly enhanced, as is the importance of positioning. It's also interesting that some of the best utility Pokemon in the game happen to be weak to flying, Amoonguss and Hitmontop being the most notable. You'd think that this makes their viability suffer, but no, these Pokemon are still widely used as their support move pools are second to none, especially Hitmontop. And in a way, it's almost kind of healthy that they can be targeted by flying type attacks from anywhere on the field. Feint is also a very important attack in triples, because Feint is an attack that also breaks the enemy's protection. If you use Feint and they use any sort of protect move, whether it be Protect itself or Wide Guard, it will now leave them vulnerable to attacks from your Pokemon. I'm sure you can see why the importance of Feint is enhanced in triples. In a world where spread moves can hit more things and therefore Wide Guard is more important, breaking through Wide Guard is by extension very important. The dynamic between spread moves and Wide Guard is also interesting, because even though a powerful spread move from a central Pokemon can absolutely decimate everything, being in the center also means you can be targeted by Fake Out from any Pokemon on the field. So it's very easy to just disrupt you from doing that. And a single Wide Guard cancels out your whole spread move. And in triples you have two allies that can now safely act. It's an incredibly interesting metagame that I regrettably have not dipped my toes into that much, but I also do understand why it was unpopular. Triples battles are pretty chaotic and difficult to keep track of. The complexity is turned up to 11 in triples battles. The official doubles format for VGC, where you bring 4 Pokemon to a game from a team of 6, is a sweet spot in terms of complexity and pace, because games are very quick, but there's a lot going on in the game, so it doesn't feel like it's over too soon or anything. Even though I'm primarily a singles player, I do understand why doubles was chosen as the primary competitive format. Singles battles in the battle spot system, where you only bring 3 Pokemon, would be a little bit too simplistic. And 6v6 singles battles would take way too long, especially with in-game animations. VGC doubles really hit a good sweet spot. Triples battles, on the other hand, would probably go a bit too far with the complexity and be difficult for viewers to understand, and maybe even difficult in terms of their barrier to entry. So I also get why triples battles were kind of abandoned. Nobody was playing them, they didn't really appeal to that many people. And the triples battles community that exists today are an extreme minority, not even close to the popularity of singles or doubles. In fact, Gen 9 triples is a pretty recent addition to the game, and before this there wasn't much interest in making a fan-made triples format for generations that were previously the current gen. Back in Gen 8 and 7 there were no triples ladders or fan formats, and the Gen 9 triples format still has a lot of development ahead of it. It doesn't seem very popular, and there isn't even a viability rankings made for it yet, or a set of sample teams, or any of the other resources that more established metagames have. But to the few gamers that are keeping triples alive to this day, I think that's cool, and I'm glad that some people at least are still playing this unique form of Pokemon battling. What do you think of triples battles? Do you think that they should return to the franchise, or were they a one-off gimmick that didn't really take off? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.